spike in attacks by jihadists, insurgents. Monitoring it all for us is France 24's Wassim Nasr. We remember that over the past months, there's been this row between Mali and France, which is pulling out. In are coming the Russian mercenaries of Wagner. What's the latest on these attacks here that we've seen in the past week?
Well, actually, the Islamic State jihadis have been roaming the border area between Mali and Niger, and they are killing by the hundreds. So they issued a fatwa or a religious order to attack the Dawsak Tuareg a few weeks ago, and we are reaching a toll of more than 300 dead. 250 were acknowledged by the Islamic State, accusing them of being combatant or sympathizers of the MSA, which is a Tuareg movement. And the new thing about those attacks, and we have a map, maybe we can see where it is happening. The new thing about the attack in Tamalat, in Shinan, and Darambukan is that I knew that fighters from Nigeria came all the way without their arms, and they got equipped in this border region, and they put up the fight. And those areas are today held by Tuareg factions, but the Islamic State is still roaming in this area almost freely, knowing that, as you were saying, France is putting out so the air support for Malian troops, and Mali doesn't exist anymore. And one more thing, one more important detail, we know that France killed the head of the Islamic State a few months back there, but which permitted the group to renew its blood and to put younger commanders in charge that are much more violent and in much more better relations with Islamic State Central, because since the 23rd, and here we are seeing them pledging allegiance to the new Caliph, Abu Hassan, since the 23rd, they have their own province, because before they used to depend from ISWAP, Islamic State in Western Africa. So the death of Abu Walid Sahrawi and the natural death of his second in command a few months back actually were beneficial for the group instead of weakening it.
One of the reasons for the row between France and Mali is this issue of how to handle this insurgency. Assimi Goïta, the head of the junta, said he wanted a political solution. How is that going?
Well, it didn't go well at all. The last attempt happened in Nouakchott in Mauritania at the beginning, mid-February. I was there. I witnessed some kind of attempt to put on negotiations on the table. It didn't work out. On the other side of the border, the President Bazoum is trying negotiations with the Islamic State. In Mali, it was with Alqaeda. It didn't work out as well because they don't want to negotiate, actually. And the middleman working on this isn't very efficient, if you may say so, which puts the army of Niger on the side of this fight today de facto, but it shouldn't be much longer for them to stay this way. But another factor is important also, the Al-Qaeda factor. So Al-Qaeda are willing to negotiate in Mali, but we don't know what's the stand today regarding the Islamic State. We know, if we can see the map again, that they are making a front between some villages that were taken by the Islamic State, but they are waiting politically, between brackets, for the population to ask them for help. And this is very important because they want to play this politically. So the new border between Al-Qaeda jihadis and Islamic State jihadis is around the town of Talatai, about 50 kilometers south and 70 kilometers west, which is very important because they are on the ground. So the civilians that are paying the highest death toll today in this fight might choose at the end of the day to go towards Al-Qaeda.
And the Russian mercenaries of Wagner, are they present at all in any of this?
They are not at all in this region. They are present in the center of Mali. They are not efficient. And we know today, for example, that Malian helicopters shot just next to the MINUSMA forces, the United Nations forces, and the British contingent of those forces. And we were like 2 steps away from a catastrophe. On the 22nd, the Malian army shot on United Nations forces, by accident, of course, but this is because of the lack of coordination and what we call deconflictions. So many actors are acting militarily in this region without any coordination, and this is because of the decisions that were taken by Bamako, but also because of the presence of Russian elements on the ground, which at the end of the day aren't at all efficient facing jihadi groups.
And yet, public opinion seems to be whipped up right now against the French and in favor of the Russians.
Well, but yes, of course, but at the end, because this is communication stunts, you see. But at the end of the day, when you see what happened in the center, like Al-Qaeda going back and waiting to see how the Russians are going to act, and then to hit back again, we have images, for example, of the attack of Mondoro in Mali. More than 40 Malian military were killed, and we have the footage to see the footage of the attack. And when we know, for example, that this is the footage of the attack, and when we know, for example, that also Al-Qaeda jihadis are putting a siege around the town of Djibo in Burkina Faso, we know that armies in this region aren't efficient without air support, and air support will come from the French military. I got to know that on the 9th, there was a drone hit by a French military against Islamic State elements on the border with Niger, and today, too, there was another hit on a group roaming in this border region, but it was on Niger's side of the border, because on the Malian side of the border, the French cannot or are not willing to act without an official request from the Malian army in order to prevent mistakes like it happened on the 22nd between the Malian army and the MINUSMA and the British elements in the MINUSMA.